Hello everyone and welcome to the program. I'm Sheung Okinbaloye. Today in Nigeria, the problem of economy isn't just what Nigerians are grappling with, but several other challenges from insecurity to poverty. Nigeria is simply facing one of its worst moments in history. And the government and the military is strategically quenching the flames of the Boko Haram insurgency. Other security concerns are also emerging from the rising of the Niger Delta Avengers and the resurgence of attacks on oil installations in the oil-rich Niger Delta region. The politics perhaps more tender than ever. The violence shows of grievance by different groups is a pointer to the need to sit and discuss ways to iron out the differences between the peoples of this country. The attacks in the Niger Delta have crippled exploration and production activities to what experts say is perhaps the highest in about 2 decades. The federal government during the week met with leaders and some governors of the South-South and met with the Vice President as the President. Muhammadu Buhari is away on vacation in the UK for medical attention. The dialogue was what was preferred as a possible solution to end the activities of the ravaging militant group in the Niger Delta presently. You will have heard some eminent Nigerians talk about the issue of restructuring. For a foremost Nigerian lawyer and elder statesman, Professor Ben Nwabueze, he believes Nigeria needs to be restructured, and now.
We have to restructure. Without the restructuring in this country, I cannot see us transforming it into one nation. We have to, I also suggested that we should have a national conference of ethnic nationalities. Bring the ethnic nationalities together so that we can tell ourselves the honest truth about ourselves. We are not prepared to do that. The problem is leadership. We need a leader who appreciates the importance of this mission, this dream, and who is prepared to work for it. Nothing is ever said about this. Since Buhari took over, has he ever said one word about how to transform Nigeria into one nation? They don't believe in true restructuring. You can't transform this nation unless you restructure the federal system. Yes. So, at 85, I'm still hoping and praying that our dear country will be transformed into one nation.
Professor Ben Nwabueze there talking about restructuring Nigeria, food for thought. Exactly, for those who are responsible or those who are in charge to note some of these things that this elder statesman is talking about. But we'll take a moment now.
Cancel the election of June 12 is invidious, unpatriotic.
Actions, many say the freest and fairest in Nigeria's history, though the mandate was never to be. We'll talk about that after this break. Join us again. Thank you so much for staying with us on the program. 20 years ago, well, about 23 years now, Nigeria held an election perceived to be perhaps the freest and fairest in its history. But the election was annulled by the then military ruler, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, and here is a report on the events of those years.
Nigerians want a change, and they have said so through the ballot box.
The decision of the federal military government to cancel the election of June 12 is invidious, unpatriotic.
Those were the emotions conveyed after the June 12, 1993 presidential elections were annulled by the then head of state, Ibrahim Babangida. And these were his reasons.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was in fact a huge array of electoral practices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
Riots, protests, civil disobedience, and everything possible were done to convince the military junta, but all to no avail. Years after the annulment, there is still huge support for the elections most people see as perhaps the freest and fairest in Nigeria's history. But that mandate never had sway. Painful but real, the sacrifice made of the 1993 polls may not be unconnected with the survival of Nigeria's budding democracy. Since the return to democracy in 1999, there's been a big question on the integrity of elections in the country. Since his death in 1998, MKO Abiola has been seen by some people as a representation of the hopes and certainty of the agony and protest of those who suffer injustice. June 12th anniversary, one can only hope that the people's voice will continually be heard as against the will of the few. Everyone indeed has a role to play in the sustenance of Nigeria's democracy and civil rights. But for now, it is still unclear what MKO Abiola stands for nationally.
Nigerians are ready for democracy. Nigeria have elected their president, and Nigerians are not prepared to go for another election. The truth of the matter is that you do not have two sunrises in one day. Even in Africa, the sun rises only once a day, and that is the way it is. The people have made it very clear that that is what they want. And I'm sure the purpose is to let government know that the people are very serious. You do not take the extreme measure of killing a newborn child just because the midwife is a bad woman. The judiciary was peripheral to the election process. Assuming there was good faith on the part of government, all matters relating to the election should have gone to the tribunal set up by law for such cases, and should only have been initiated by persons or bodies that had genuine interest in the election. Instead, we are being told that the judiciary behaved so badly that I, Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, should be penalized for his conduct. It is incredible. In view of all this, I find the conclusion unfortunate but inescapable that the federal military government is guilty of bad faith, pure and simple. No one has accused me of any offense against any known electoral law or regulation. The people of this country went to polls on Saturday, June 12, 1993, and without let or hindrance chose me as their president. Didn't they? They did. The figures say so. The agencies of government, MAMSA, CDS, Presidential Election Monitoring Group also says so.
The man you know too well, Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, MKO Abiola, the man who was said to have been the winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election in Nigeria. Let me remind you of those who are aware, who knew too well, and who followed that election. How did it all go down? Some of the songs and some of the campaigns, some of us who remember vividly can really remember. But what about the figures after that election? We remember, of course, that he won in somewhat over 50% in that election. Let's quickly give you an idea of what exactly was what the figures stood at that time. Well, that's it there. It was of the Social Democratic Party, and look at it there. 8,341,309 votes to emerge as a winner with 58%. And the man, Bashir Tofa of the NRC, National Republican Convention, came out with over 5 million votes with 41.64% of the total vote cast as at that time. Well, that election and the mandate never came to see the light of day at the end of the day. But, well, across some states of the Southwest, today, June 12, is remembered as a democratic symbol for the nation, from Ogun to Osun State and Lagos State here in Nigeria. But what does June 12 really mean to Nigerians? To discuss this is a former NADECO leader and one of those who fought for the military to go back to the barracks for Nigeria democracy. He's the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman Governing Council of Ondo State University of Science and Technology. Dr. Amos Akingbe joins us in the studio. Many thanks for coming into the studio.
Thanks for having me.
3 states are commemorating June 12 today. And for so many Nigerians in some part of the country, it looks somewhat like a Southwest concept or an idea. Some people have asked that it should be the day known as the Real Democracy Day for Nigeria. Do you think so?
I think it should have been, but it is not. Because since January 1966, a section of the Nigerian ethnic group hijacked governance through the military and have been ruling since with military fiat they call Nigerian Constitution. That constitution is a fake. It's not made by Nigerians. And it scattered all the arrangement we had from independence till 1966. And since then we have military with some ethnic leaders foisting their dictatorial will on Nigeria. Even the Abiola election or the June 12 election is part of the fake thing. It couldn't have solved a problem. You cannot say smoke is giving you problem. You cannot breathe well. And so you go and look for either air condition or a fan to blow the smoke away. And you have not put away the fire that produced the smoke. The smoke will come again. And so before, during, and since Abiola, we've been having the problem that Nigeria is not properly structured. When you talk about restructuring, we're talking about decentralization. It's another name for decentralizing power to the owners of Nigeria and not to be centralized. The state government is artificial. The most artificial is the central government. The real government of the people is the local government. There's no Nigerian who is not a member of a local government. The power devolves and should derive from the local government to the next artificial, which is state, from the state to the most artificial, the federal.
Let me quickly take you to some of the struggles of that moment. But we'll take a moment, and when we come back, we'll talk more on that. Dr. Akingbe is with me in the studio. Join us again.